Amen. First, giving honor to God. Yeah. I also want to acknowledge our pastor, Love, First Lady Love. All of you here, it is truly an honor to stand before you and speak on our sister Sarah. I think if Sarah could come back to this time and talk to us about her story, I think she started out with this statement: "I don't even know how that happened. I don't even know how God did what He did." And it's just, her story is so amazing. It blew me away. Sarah was an amazing woman. I saw in the text that she was a woman who was full of action, but not many words. Her story is so powerful that even 400 years after the Old Testament was written, in the New Testament, apostles Peter and Paul even took time out to acknowledge this lady, Sarah, who didn't even say a lot, but she did so much. And we're like, well, what is it? What is it, Lord? So I want to get started. Apostles Paul and Peter in the New Testament, 400 years after, right, mentioning her, they praised Sister Sarah for being this paragon of a godly woman because of her devotion to her husband and to her God. And then in Hebrews 11:11, Sarah's the only wife to be documented in the Hall of Faith. Go to Hebrews 11:11 and you'll see that they mention all of these great people in the Bible. Noah did this and Enoch did this and out of nowhere. And Sarah, wow, Paul took time to acknowledge Sarah?
Yeah.
Oh, what's going on? He said, and by faith even Sarah, who was past childbearing age, was enabled to bear children because she considered him faithful who had made the promise. Then a couple chapters later in 1 Peter chapter 3, verses 5 through 6, Peter said, wives, in the same way, submit yourselves to your own husbands, so that if any of them do not believe the word, they may be won over without words by the behavior of their wives. When they see the purity and reverence of your lives, your beauty should not come from outward adornment such as elaborate hairstyles and the wearing of gold jewelry or fine clothes. Rather, it should be that of your inner self, the unfading beauty of a gentle and quiet spirit, which is of great worth in God's sight. For this is the way the holy women of the past who put their hope in God used to adorn themselves. They submitted themselves to their own husbands like Sarah, who obeyed Abraham and called him her Lord. You are her daughters if you do what is right and do not give way to fear. You are her daughters if you do what is right and do not give way to fear. So I would like to title Sarah's story tonight with a question. Are you a daughter of Sarah? Are you a daughter of Sarah? And when you really hear about her story, you'll see that this question is really asking, do you have what it takes to receive God's promises for your life? Are you a daughter of Sarah? Do you have what it takes to receive God's promises for your life? Because what we're going to find in her story is that Sarah started way out there in the darkness. And now she's declared in the Bible to be the mother of many nations.
Come on.
It's interesting. Instantly, these scriptures and probably that question had you like, Lord, I ain't no daughter now. I'm probably like a distant cousin, like way out there, little boy. I'm working on it. We working on it. You think I gotta do what now? I gotta be quiet. Engines. Okay. Yes, Lord. Work on me. And some of us may feel like, Lord, I'm already lost. I have no chance. To be a daughter like Sarah, to be a daughter of Sarah, that some of us, we may feel like we messed up so much that the Lord has just changed his mind about us. That we're not qualified to even begin believing God's best promises for our lives. Yes. That our background and current choices and situations don't even position us to even be called a child of God. So, this question, your answer, like I said, you might say, Lord, no, I'm not much of a daughter right now, and I'm not sure if I could ever be. Because honestly, when we hear them mentioning our sister in the New Testament like that, Paul and Peter just, Sarah, we like, well, I'm not going to be like Sarah, Lord, she way up there. When we hear about her, when we hear her story, we realize that she does leave behind great shoes to fill. Nevertheless, I truly believe that God would like to affirm us all through her story tonight. We first meet Sarah in the Old Testament in Genesis 11. Well, we learned that her name originally was Sarai, which means princess, and that she is a barren woman, married to her half-brother, right? Abram, whose name at the time was Abram. We know him to be Abraham now. And his name at the time meant high father. More interesting than that, though, y'all. We learned that Sarah, Abraham, and all of their family living in Ur of Chaldeans at the time were all pagans. What? Are we talking about the same woman that Peter and Paul are talking about? Lord, let me make sure we got this right. You said a mother of many nations, pagan, barren. How in the world did she go from pagan and barren to the godly mother of many nations? Lord, work it. Come on. What filled that gap, Lord? What did you do? That's right, Sarah. The one God declared to be the mother of many nations and the mother to the bloodline of our Savior, Jesus Christ. The quality woman of God that we are praising and celebrating today began her walk toward God's promise for her life. She began it towards God for her life as a non-believer. And what we can realize at this point before going forward is that man did not choose her. Because if anybody in this room, if God gave it to us to figure out who should be the godly mother of many nations, it would not be a pagan non-believer. It's like, we would start at the church. We would start at the mother board. We probably go to the further, but we ain't going out there to the pagan looking for no godly mother of the nations, Lord. Oh my God. And if we and our humans had a saying who would become a mother of many nations, we would probably just completely overlook Sarah, the woman we're celebrating today, that barren pagan woman. And how many times have some of us experienced people writing us off? Because of where we come from. No, not her. I know her family. No, she ain't gonna. No, not that one. No. You know, we have our lens. It is so different from Jesus. So different from what God is looking for. Come on. So we can stop. But we learn here in Genesis 11 is that where we come from is no excuse, nor can it get in the way of who and where God is calling us to be. So we can stop looking around at others and trying to figure out what they have and what they don't. We can stop focusing on where we're from and even where we are, because in a moment, God can move us from our mess to His promise. We have to believe that God has chosen us for His purposes. And the only way to get to those purposes is to cling to Him. Because if God can move a pagan barren woman from where she started to becoming a godly mother of many nations, how much more can He do with our lives? But some of us, we still curious. Hold on, God. Pagan barren woman, godly mother of many nations. How did you fill the gap? So starting in the very next chapter, chapter 12, that is when the Lord enters the scene. Isn't there something about that? My life was crazy. Then the Lord spoke. And from the moment that God spoke to Abram, her husband, in chapter 12, everything changed. It changed Sarah's life forever, a pagan barren woman. The Lord didn't speak to her. He spoke to her husband. But her devotion to her husband, right? Her devotion to her husband. When God became his God, it became Sarah's God. The Lord said to Abram, go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you. And whoever curses you, I will curse. And all peoples on the earth will be blessed through you. And so they said they went and set out to a land that God would show them. And it is from this moment where we start to really learn about Sarah's godly qualities, because I'm just thinking about most of the women that I know in my life and even myself. Wake up one morning and my husband said, we're about to go. Where are we going? Well, the Lord spoke. Remember, these are pagans now. She doesn't know about God, right? They serve many different gods. And she was like, well, he said, we're going to a land. And God said He would show us. He will, but we just got to go now. So we got to pack up everything we've ever known, leave everything we've ever known, and just go. And I'm just thinking about me. like I said, women in my life, we probably be like, you sure that was the God? That, how you know that's the right God? You know. But she didn't question it. He said she just went. She just went. She just went. And if Sarah could speak to us today about how she became the woman of God we honor, I believe she would want us to know the highlights. After that moment, she went. Because some of us have started on the journey towards the promise that God has for us. Some of us, God has spoken into our lives. And maybe you're at a point where you're trying to figure out, Lord, I'm trying to get to where you're telling me I'm supposed to be, but there's some things going on in the middle. And things just don't line up, God. They just don't line up because if you look at Sarah's story, oh my gosh, you all. Right when they left, they came into a land they were staying at where there was a severe famine. And so Abraham, without consulting with God, said, let's go to Egypt because they got resources. We're going to go over there. So they get over there, and that is when, on their way there, Abraham has a little conversation with Sarah, our sister Sarah that we're talking about. He tells her, "Country is so beautiful." She was a very beautiful woman. Let me tell you how beautiful she was. They said before they even got all the way into Egypt, they said that Pharaoh's officials they saw how beautiful she was, and they took out running to the king. Oh, king, you need to see that lady that's coming in town. You need to see that lady. So Abraham told you, you're so beautiful. If you can't tell me you're my wife. You need to tell me you're my sister. And technically, she was, right? But she was his wife. They couldn't reveal that. So they get there, and of course, as soon as they get there, the Pharaoh said, well, send her on in. That's going to be my wife. And as soon as they get her there, the Pharaoh gives Abraham all of these resources and said, yeah, go ahead. And it's going to be my wife. He was so ready, so ready. And it was eventually revealed to Pharaoh that she was actually his wife. Pharaoh said, man, I know you're crazy. You're going to get me in so much trouble. He sent him away. He sent him away. But I want you to think about Sarah in that moment. Remember, he told her, you're going to have to pretend to be just my sister. So that means he was willing to have his wife lay with another man so that he wouldn't be killed. And then Sarah, she just went and did what her husband told her to do. Imagine how she felt. My own husband. I already sacrificed everything to walk with you and go on this journey where we don't even know where we're going. And now you're telling me Lord, you just sent me on this promise. You got me going towards this promise that you have for my life. And now you're telling me I got to take a step back. Now you're telling me I got to be demoted. Now you're telling me I got to go through things that make me very uncomfortable and seem very unfair to me. Are you sure this is a part of me fulfilling the promise you have for my life? All right. When God spoke that promise to you before you started filling in the middle part, it's oh yes, God is calling me. I'm headed there. God is going to do it, right? But then right there in the middle, it's situations like this that Sarah experienced where you do start to question like, Lord, are you sure? Is this really God who sent me here? It makes you question. It makes you wonder. And they didn't say that Sarah did that, but I mean, I can only imagine how that made her feel. Like, wow, this God really put me through some things. But guess what? It didn't happen just one time. Abraham did it to her a second time. And she just went. And as they continued to travel along, the Lord reappeared to Abram to reveal even more of his plan, to prosper him, to bless him with a child. Yet as time progressed, Sarah got frustrated in waiting on God and convinced Abraham to sleep with her servant Hagar. And that's when Ishmael came along, right? We all get frustrated and we take those left turns and then more left turns to when we look up like, Lord, where was I? Where am I going? What is going on? And so, yes, Abraham and Sarah both took some left turns throughout the story from Genesis 11 to 20. And then after that wrong turn, Abraham and Sarah had to wait 13 more years, and then God spoke. And you know what I thought when I read that? I said, surely God would get them. He can tell them, y'all try to do it your own way. Let me tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to take my promise. I'm going to say, but guess what he did? He spoke to them. And when he showed up, he changed their names. He changed their name. He came in changing names and blessing them and taking care of them because that's the God we serve. Sometimes the enemy try to make us feel like as if you You messed up enough. God had promised at you, but you messed it up. But God is not like that. God does not hold back on his promises. When we mess up, he still comes in with grace. He still comes in with love. He still comes in with forgiveness. He showed up changing their names.
Come on.
And not just any names. He gave them names that connected to the promise that he had already spoken to them. Abram became Abraham, father of many nations. Sarai became Sarah, mother of many nations. And he spoke this specifically to Abram about Sarah. As for Sarai, your wife, you are no longer to call her Sarai. Her name will be Sarah. I will bless her and will surely give you a son by her. This is after Hagar. The whole Hagar, this is what he's speaking to them. I will bless her so that she will be the mother of nations. Kings of people will come from here. And then later on, God confirms his word again for Sarah to hear. This time, Sarah heard. And they said, it was 3 visitors that came. And y'all know how we like to lead, especially women. Don't get too close, but we're going to lean in. So she leaned in. And she heard the 3 visitors talking to Abraham. And they told her that by this time next year, she's going to have a son. And so, of course, most of you probably know, she laughed. How many of us have gotten so complacent and just like, Lord, I've been waiting for so long that if anything that shows up that look like what you said, sometimes we get so complacent and dry, and sometimes it becomes dead. Like our lives just become still, where we just like, Lord, if he want to do it. Our verbiage starts to change. It used to be God is gonna do it now. If he does it, you start to notice it, and you just get a little weary. And that, I truly believe God understands that, because this is what Sarah said. She said, after I'm worn out. He's like 90 years old at this time. After I'm worn out and my Lord is old, will I now have this pleasure? As we continue to read the story, we learn that despite their wrong turns along the way to God's promises for their lives, God did not change his mind.
Come on.
And that is a reminder for us today as well. God does not hold back on his promises because of our imperfections. He knew both Sarah and Abraham were going to mess up along the way before he sent them. He made provisions for them. He made provisions for them before they went. And he's going to provide for us as we go. As we go. Our job is to remain devoted. And we also hear how Sarah was resilient. She kept going, even though a lot of that stuff was there to, it could have knocked her down. She could have turned back around. So I'm going back there with the pagans. And no, she stayed devoted. She stayed resilient until we move from where we are to where he is calling us to be. So women of God, I ask you these questions again. Are you a daughter of Sarah? Do you have what it takes to receive God's promises for your life? And surprisingly, I realized the answer should be no. I don't. Because the truth, just as in the case of our sister Sarah, is there is always going to be a gap between who we are and where God is calling us to be. And that gap can only be filled by God's hand. God's power. If God had not stepped in and did all the filling that he could do, Sarah, we wouldn't be talking about Sarah nor Abraham. Nevertheless, as we stay devoted to him and remain resilient through every trial and turn of our lives, God will provide what we need to receive his promises. We are daughters of Sarah because God has predestined us to fulfill his promises for our lives. We are daughters of Sarah not because we are perfect, but because we are devoted. We are daughters of Sarah not because we don't get tired and make wrong turns, but because we are resilient and we get back up every time we fall. All of the work is not on us because the weight of fulfilling God's promise for our lives is on God. That is why it's so important for us to commit our everything to him. Let him lead us and guide us. Let him write our stories. Even when we mess up, let's keep clinging to Jesus. Lord, I did so bad, but I'm here. I'm holding on. I know you're still here. I know you're faithful. I know you're true. I know you're good. Let's openly receive his rebuke and correction. There came correction. There came discipline with the wrong turns that they made, but God, he kept his hand on their lives. He kept his hand on Sarah. Let's keep thirsting and hungering after his righteousness. Let's keep believing that he is the God who will move us from where we are to where he wants us to be. He will move us from barren and hopeless, like he did our sister Sarah, to a place of fruitfulness and experiencing exceedingly abundantly above all we could ever ask. Thank you. Woo!